Hello, we are Group 3, and this is our Ferrara sales prediction. Now to pass it on to Spencer to talk about our first visualization.
Thanks, Alejandro. So we used a bar chart for our first visualization, and we noticed that every type of packaging had a fairly strong number of sales, with only the category of all other being relatively low, which is expected, I think, in almost any company. But overall, Ferrara should be very proud of their ability to have strong sales numbers for candy in all kinds of different packaging. This tells me that they are successfully reaching all kinds of different customers and that there is definitely a need for all of these kinds of different packaging because the customers need different amounts of and types of candies for the different situations they might be in. If you look at the chart, tub candy is one of the lowest bars, but I honestly can't think of the last time I bought candy in a tub type of packaging. So the amount of sales they have for what I would consider a niche item is honestly kind of impressive. Next, I'm going to pass it on to Miguel to talk about our next visualization.
Thank you, Spencer. So moving forward, we created a pivot table for our second visualization to show the amount of sales for each candy type over a period of time. So yeah, as you can see, the pivot table is broken down into 14 rows for the 14 different candy options and 5 columns for the different periods. Anyway, the table goes to the sales of quarter 1 of 2019, quarter 2 of 2018, quarter 3 of 2018, quarter 4 of 2018, and a column titled sales. To be specific, the sales column is composed of the sum of quarter 2 of 2019 through quarter 1 of 2020. Hence why this number is much larger than all other sales during the different quarters. And finally, an observation that we can point out is that the candy cane has the largest sales over all periods, meaning that it has a very popular demand. And if you were to think about this realistically, during the holidays, the demand for candy canes does increase, so that it does make sense why they have such good sales. So overall, we think that Ferrara has very good sales through all the quarters. But now I'll pass it on to Alejandro.
For our third visualization, we used a box plot. With this box plot, we scaled the data so we can compare the data within a uniform range. The data used was from the different segments of candy. We noticed that the lowest median sales, as well as the range, seemed to be from classic favorites, kids novelty, and ethnic. The highest performing seemed to be sugar-free candies and candies listed under not applicable. As can be seen by this graph, there are many outliers for all segments, with sugar-free candy having the least. Sugar-free candy seemed to be the most compact and consistent, which was surprising. Now to pass it on to Shirley to talk about our first model.
Yeah, so for the models we're going to introduce today, we have multilinear regression and random forest. And for MLR, first we create predictors and response variable. We have sales as our response variable and the rest of them as the predictors. Second, we dummy coding predictors for linear models. And third, we split training and validation data sets into 50-50, which means we have half of the data to build model and the rest of them to test the accuracy. Finally, we generate a summary regression. And as we can see from the results here, type candy cane has the highest coefficient, showing a high positive relationship with the cells, which means when cells increase by 1 unit, the candy cane will also increase by that amount. And then move forward to the performance. The mean absolute error is 34,864.9282, which is very high, so we are not going to use it for our final result. And then I will pass it to Spencer to talk about our random forest.
Thanks, Shirley. So for our random forest, we did the X predictors and the dummy code, but all of that was extremely easy because it was the exact same code that we used for our MLR due to the fact that we're using the same data. So as you can see at the top of that picture, we started off with our predictors, and then we had our outcome as sales, and then we had our dummy coding there at the bottom with the index showing all of the dummy codes that we did. So next we have our training and validation sets. Those are also the exact same as the MLR, and we made sure to do that 50-50 split like Shirley mentioned. For our parameter grid though, we used 100 estimators, a max depth of 5, 2 min samples split, 4 min samples leaf, a min impurity decrease of 0.0001, the criterion of MAE, our OOB score was true, and we had a random state of 1. So all of these parameters made our code run fairly quickly for the amount of data that was being processed, and they were really effective and gave us an MAE of below 29,000, which I will be getting to in the future. But next we talk about our grid search, which we had to use in order to find the optimal parameters for our model. This is how we're able to use the parameter grid that we created before in order to lower our MAE as much as we could. So finally, we have our random forest performance, which was very encouraging because we were able to get an MAE of 28,928.7156, which is below that threshold of 29,000 that we wanted to reach. So in conclusion, we thank you guys for listening to our presentation, and we hope that it has been able to inform you about some of the things we did within our code and within our project.